Travis, my good soul. Article of Faith, number 12. We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. Section 98, verse 5, that the law of the land, which is constitutional, supporting that principle of freedom and maintaining rights and privileges, belongs to all mankind and is justifiable before me. Therefore, I, the Lord, justify you and your brethren of my church in befriending that law, which is the constitutional law of the land. Section 101, verse 77. According to the laws and constitution of the people, which I have suffered to be established, and should be maintained for the rights and privileges of all flesh, according to just and holy principles. That every man may act in doctrine and principle pertaining to futurity, according to the moral agency which I have given unto him, that every man may be accountable for his own sins in the day of judgment. Therefore it is not right that any man should be in bondage one to another. And for this purpose I have established the constitution of this land by the hands of wise men whom I raised up unto this very purpose, and redeemed the land by the shedding of blood. Section 109, verse 54. Have mercy, O Lord, upon all the nations of the earth. Have mercy upon the rulers of our land. May these principles, which were so honorably and nobly defended, namely the Constitution of our land by our fathers, be established forever. Third Nephi, chapter 7. Now behold, I will show unto you that they did not establish a king over the land. But in this same year, yea, the 30th year, they did destroy upon the judgment seat, yea, did murder the chief judge of the land. And the people were divided one against another, and they did separate one from another. Now all this was done, that all this iniquity had come upon them, because they did yield themselves unto the power of Satan. And the regulations of the government were destroyed, because of the secret combination of the friends and kindreds of those who murdered the prophets. They did cause a great contention in the land, insomuch that the more righteous part of the people had nearly all become wicked. Yea, there were but a few righteous men among them. The Constitution of Mosiah, with judges destroyed by the kingmen. So knowing that Joseph Smith sustains and defends the Constitution, and we can even go to his Joseph Smith Papers, 19 July 1840, verse 7, because I put it in two verses with footnotes for you on YouTube or on academia.edu. It's actually 6. This nation will be on the very verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground. The Constitution will be upon the brink of ruin. And Joseph Smith says we must bear it away from the very verge of destruction. And so, what the bleep and bleep is Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. talking about in The Way to Perfection, pages 290 and 291, first under the Keys of the Everlasting Kingdom. In this council of Adam-on-Diamond, Christ will take over the reins of government. What? We believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates, in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. We believe that the Constitution is good and just. What the hell is Jesus going to be doing taking over the government? Because that sounds very much like the kingmen with their secret combinations. Let's keep reading. Maybe I'm taking it out of context. Government shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. That's not helping. Under thrones to be cast down. Until this Adam-on-Diamond Grand Council is held, Satan shall hold rule in the nations of the earth. But at that time thrones are to be cast down, and man's rule shall come to an end. Then shall the government of the United States of America be given to the saints of the Most High. See the pattern there? See how it's contradicting Joseph Smith? Under by voice of the priesthood. At that time, the council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond, there will be a transfer of authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful King Jesus Christ. Our Lord will then assume the reins of government. Directions will be given to the priesthood. Well, at least I'm not seeing anywhere in these passages of a secret combination. Let's keep reading. When this gathering is held at Adam-on-Diamond, the world will not know of it. Oops, spoke too soon. The members of the church at large will not know of it. Oh, crap. Yet it shall be preparatory to the coming in the clouds of glory of our Savior Jesus Christ. The world cannot know of it. The saints cannot know of it, except those who are in this secret combination. Mark Skousen is the church's representative. When I found this after October conference in 2021, church had had enough of me. Again. They literally ordered my extermination. Again. Having failed previously over the multiple times they've tried. I'm able to understand what I read in the Book of Mormon. I'm able to understand what I read in the Doctrine and Covenants and from Joseph Smith. This is not our doctrine from Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. Even if I were to believe that Jesus was real, this would disturb me. This would trouble my spiritual witness feelings. That Jesus is going to overthrow the governments, and his second coming is a mass extermination of humans. Because that's what I read about Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, is that if we don't get to Zion, we will not be safe. Section 45 specifically. The parable that Joseph Smith gives, that the church wants you to believe, is just a rewording of Matthew 24. That's all it is. Still Jesus. Don't interpret anything beyond. So, way down in verse 66. And it shall be called the New Jerusalem, a land of peace, a city of refuge, a place of safety for the saints of the Most High God. And the glory of the Lord shall be there, and the terror of the Lord shall also be there, insomuch that the wicked will not come unto it. And it shall be called Zion. And it shall come to pass among the wicked, that every man that will not take his sword against his neighbor must needs flee unto Zion for safety. You will not be left alone. Even if you've got a cabin in the woods, even if you've got a fallout shelter, or one of those militant groups who are war preppers, whatever they're called, nobody will be safe. And it shall be said among the wicked, let us not go up to battle against Zion, for the inhabitants of Zion are terrible, wherefore we cannot stand. And it shall come to pass that the righteous shall be gathered out from among all nations. Hey, that's the keys of Moses, the Jewish Christ, that not a single Mormon believes in. And shall come to Zion, singing with songs of everlasting joy. How do you get overthrowing the government and Jesus ruling governments from this? I do not see Jesus ruling over the world governments if Zion is the only safe place on earth. You know, I understand Mormons don't study their scriptures. I understand that Mormons are told not to study their scriptures. They'll become apostates. They'll leave the church. They'll do drugs and become addicted, which now is changed to the Healing Power of Jesus group. Last night's church news. Oh my God. You know, I can understand that you don't have associative memory like I do. That for you, you actually have to search through your scriptures and have notes that are completely organized so that you can do what I do in my brain. Even though you memorize and I don't. But still, for me to read the scriptures to you, to read this in section 45, to read Article of Faith number 12, to read the passages about the Constitution, and then compare it with Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. There's no way a Mormon can apologize to justify what Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. said. But he's not the only one who said it. Thomas B. Marsh, president of the Quorum of the 12, was threatened and horrified at what he had witnessed of a group of Mormons who called themselves true Mormons, titled Danites, who had set up their headquarters in Adam-on-Diamond with Newell K. Whitney as the bishop. They had told Thomas B. Marsh that Joseph Smith approved of all of it. And Joseph Smith was the leader of the Danites, the true Mormons. That Joseph Smith was ordering the war against Missouri and against America, and told him that he wrote to the governor in his affidavit that they intend in the future to overthrow the government of not just the United States of America, but those of the world. That's where Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. got it from. But how? He was just a little boy when his daddy was assassinated in Carthage jail. So who told him this? This church claims that the Danites have all died out. They no longer exist. Oops. We are told that Thomas B. Marsh was excommunicated by Joseph Smith on March 17th, 1839. he was still in Liberty Jail. He didn't excommunicate anybody in Liberty Jail. So why are all these apostates who chose not to be involved with the Danites and their war against America getting excommunicated when it's not Joseph? Who's excommunicating them? Thomas B. Marsh didn't get excommunicated for defending his wife's honor. Somebody's lying, and it ain't Joseph. Who is the leader of these Danites? How did Joseph Fielding Smith Sr. learn about this Danite plot to overthrow the governments of the world and mass exterminate people, for which the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints tried to assassinate me, to shut me up on YouTube? Yeah, it's easy, no-brainer. Brigham Young with his #1 Heber C. Kimball. They are the leaders of the Danites. They are the enemy. And so every time a living prophet of Jesus gets up and tells you, you must pay your tithing or burn at the time of the second coming of Jesus, now you know what they really mean. Oops. Took that one down prematurely. Need to get to Sister Jessica. She's got to be about 24 years old now. It'd be 2020, she'd be 19. So it's 6 years later. She should be around 25, going on 26. So she should be married and have 5 kids. As a living prostitute for Jesus. The righteous returned priesthood holder who's got himself a nice, good job to pay a high prostitution price for her. And is she an 8-cow woman? An 8K woman? She's definitely worth it. She posted on her mission site her mission president's letter to parents and stake presidents, which is what all mission presidents are required to do. My mission presidents did it. And the mission president decided to share the words of President Dallin H. Oaks at that missionary meeting he attended in Las Vegas, Nevada, Saturday, March 14th, 2020. I already knew this, because remember, I finally found the way to perfection in 2021. I didn't find this until 2024. Thanks to Mindy, who found Sister Jessica's site and shared it with a crush that she pretended to be friends with on YouTube. And the guy who has a crush on her but doesn't want to. Mormons are weird. did the video. And the Mormon YouTube employee who wants to mock me and condemn me and judge me as a Danite judges to punish me for my apostasy and disbelief and betrayal of the church, forced the recommendation for me. And I saw it and I went, what? What? Oops. Oak says, remember, March 14th, 2020. What happened after March 14th, 2020 had not happened yet. Don't try to deceive me about telling me that what happened after March 14th, 2020 happened before it. God. He says, this is not the end of the world, but merely a test. Excuse me? He's telling mission presidents this. They weren't supposed to record him. Oaks is paranoid about that. If you weren't such a criminal, you'd have nothing to fear with what you say. And especially if you make it public, nobody can twist your words around. You know, like conferences. Mormons are on high alert to make sure I don't twist your words. And so I do very good, precise quoting of your own words to make sure I don't deceive my viewing audience that the Mormon employee is keeping from watching me. I would be called out, liar! So I will never misquote a living prophet of Jesus, because Mormons would not let me live it down. So I have to put in their exact words. What is about to happen in the year 2020, Oak said is only going to be a test, a trial run, which means Oaks is confessing to be responsible for what happened in 2020. That Fox 13 News Utah came out in 2021 to say that the church was the only organization investing in the stock market to get $6 billion of profit, while everyone else suffered. That's insider trading. Oaks confesses to having rigged it, and then Fox 13 News exposed that they profit off of it on the stock market. Insider trading. I guess the SEC missed that part, because it was after March 14th that the stock market crumbled, that the church pulled their stocks and made a profit off of it. And then I got too many people coming to me and saying that the church is evil because they were fooling Mormons into getting vaccinated. dumbasses, stock market. Which stocks does the church own stock in? They don't own stock in Moderna, because that one was where a black woman came up with her vaccine. But the church has not been racist since 1978. Nope, not at all. But he says a trial run for the second coming of Jesus, which is mass extermination, so we do a live count that to this day is inaccurate and incomplete. How many humans died from COVID-19? The true World Health Organization. The true death toll of COVID-19 estimating global excess, ... May 20th, 2021, estimates suggest the total number of global deaths attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 is at least 3 million. Worldometer. I'm not sure how authoritative they are. Statista.com. CDC. Here we go. This is when the CDC said that the data set will no longer be updated. Here we have, that's Statistica. There's a CDC. Again, welcome to the United Nations. Let's check on the CDC first. Let's see if they give us a number when they stopped. No. They are only announcing that they've stopped counting. Okay. So let's try this Statista, though I have no confidence. I don't want cookies. Number of deaths as of May 2nd, 2023 by country and territory. They're saying 6,866,733. That does not sound correct. So I have no idea who these people are, and then they're trying to sell me something there at the bottom, so I can't trust that. So let's try the UN. 149 million, dear God. So the United Nations at UN.org, 14.9 million excess deaths associated with the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and 2021. So for the 2 years at the beginning, 14.9 million, according to the UN. Now, if you want to say that you can't trust the UN because they betrayed Israel by helping cause the October 7th attack and giving aid and comfort to the enemy of Islam against Israel, you might have a claim on that. Well, we do have another one for the CDC. Excess deaths associated with COVID-19 with September 27th, 2023, when it was archived. And they're not giving me anything of value. USAFacts.org. Not sure, a little bit. It was John Hopkins, wasn't it? Johns Hopkins COVID map. Still in my system, huh? And so Johns Hopkins University has stopped collecting data as of March 10th, 2023. Are we frozen or are we still good? Yeah, we're still good. Employee's not working, I guess. Oh, dear God. Okay. Yeah, they're confirming the 6,881,955 deaths worldwide. Okay. So the number of cases, though, 676 million. And then they had included the vaccine doses administered by the time. So we'll do a snapshot since it's been since 2023 when I last did it. I still kept count of the one that they came out with for Utah yesterday. It's greatly changed and simplified to avoid the total numbers. But nonetheless. But that was just for the mass murder. Which, when you consider that the world's population had reached 8 million, or 8 billion, oh my God. That's not 10%. So 10% would be 800 million, 1% would be 80 million, and then 0.1% would be 8 million. So it's less than 0.1% of the world's population that were reported as dying, according to the two sources that confirmed the number together. But then there was the governor of New York who got busted for his neglect of the elderly in the homes, for that failure to care for them. But then we also had a presidential election, didn't we? Jesus Christ, second coming, mass murder, but only the wicked. So the Mormons who died, even those missionaries who died from it on their missions, were wicked, huh? Try telling that to their families. And then a government coup, and we had an election. Oak said it's only going to be a test for the next election, which just happens to have been in 2024. Hey, Biden won in 2020. Hey, there was a coup on January 6, 2021. Huh. And Biden, knowing what he needed to do, the Democrats who initially ruled all of Congress knew what they needed to do, did nothing. They sat and waited. Biden would put in Merrick Garland as the Attorney General. And he did nothing. They all waited. And then Putin, on my daughter's birthday, invaded Ukraine in 2022. Then SCOTUS overthrew Roe v. Wade. And also ruled that the 14th Amendment, Section 3, isn't it? I don't think it was 4, because 4 I think is for the debts. That anybody responsible for an insurrection cannot be in office and cannot run for office ever. And so here comes 2024. And a person who is disqualified from running for office is disqualified from being president, runs again. All of his court cases that finally got started and were delayed, as we all knew it would be, have now all been dropped. Oh, but SCOTUS is going to get him sentenced. Oh, really? Oh, is he going to get put in jail? No. When? These are violations of the Constitution. And it wasn't Biden, except for violating the Constitution, that he's supposed to be the commander-in-chief against all foreign enemies and domestic enemies. That he's supposed to be the commander-in-chief when there's an insurrection. And they failed. In February 2023, YouTube's CEO got her termination letter, and they put in the guy whose roots are from India with the greatest porn book ever. And yet he spent his whole time attacking women creators. Thousands of female creators are gone because of his purging hatred of women. The First Amendment not only says that there must be a separation of religion from government, but also that freedom of speech, and qualified by a previous Supreme Court ruling that freedom of expression is also involved, be separate and distinct from religion as well. That the United States' morality is based upon the Constitution of giving rights equally of life, liberty, and property to all citizens born and naturalized, not conceived and naturalized. And so YouTube, as a public company, cannot be tailored for their standards and community guidelines of any particular religious view, because that's a violation of the Constitution. And so women are not considered porn with the First Amendment and the subsequent rulings. Women are not obscene. They are beautiful, lovely, of good report, and praiseworthy, and therefore we should seek after them. And it's pathetic that religions have redefined what porn is. Because it has nothing to do with idol-worshiping fear. That's religion. But the Greek word is prostitute, and prostitute means before the statue. It's not sexual. So people would go to the Greek temples with the Greek god statue and prostrate, bow before the statue. Prostrate pornography. Prostrate prostitute. It's religion. But the Greeks added a practice of having men pay to have sex with temple worker females. And so, while the women were not at work in the temple, they hung out outside before the statues. And thus, the ritual practice of prostrating yourself, prostrate prostitute, the women who were prostituted were prostituted. And religions, not caring about the Greek of their own claim of the New Testament, or the Septuagint version that they themselves also created and framed and blamed Jews for assembling it together. And when you hear the story, you go, that ain't true. That's a lie. But they got the Jews to believe it. But nonetheless, this church is doing that very same thing to women. Now, Joseph Smith, those Danites, Brigham Young started Section 119 in 1844 and used that to allow those who followed him, because not everybody followed him, to then access the temple for worship. As Emma was stuck with all the debts. And when the Nauvoo temple was completed, but before dedicated, on the anniversary of the Illuminati, of the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, he had created a book of the law, which Joseph, we only learn, that was section 185 was the book of the law. Let's see if I can find other sources for justification of it, because he didn't publish section 85 in 1844. And so maybe he found out after that, but didn't bother to publish another edition until the year before he died. It's 34. Yeah, section 85. No. Whoop. Written in the book of the law to do them. Galatians 3:10. For as many as are the works of the law under the curse, for it is written, cursed is everyone who continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. Well, that's just Deuteronomy. Read in the book of the law, Deuteronomy. So yeah, no, only section 85, which Brigham didn't publish until the year before he died. Right? I have to double check myself. I don't memorize. I don't have the reference. Oh, right, I have it in my files. Covenants. 84 edition. Yes. No. Yeah. 76. There it is. 2, 13, 77, 85, 87, 801 to 111, 113 to 118, 120 to 123, 125, 126, 129 to 132, and 136. Yeah. Which contradicts section 117. Because I believe it was Warren Parrish, wasn't it? Who was the bishop called by Joseph, that W. Phelps was the clerk for which the letter was written to him about being a clerk. And then gives the prophecy of the future Jewish Christ, who would set in order Joseph Smith's temple to stop the practice of prostituting women by the enemy who would take his church away from him and have him murdered. And so, yeah, it seems weird, but W. Phelps did follow Brigham Young afterward, instead of Sidney Rigdon, of whom he followed from the beginning when he first found out about the Book of Mormon. It was even him who was the one who first got the Book of Mormon and took it to Sidney Rigdon and the rest of his congregation that brought them in. And yet he followed Brigham rather than Sidney at the end of it all. And so regardless of when Brigham Young found out about the Book of the Law, he had it in the painting portrait of him in the Holy of Holies of the Nauvoo Temple after it was completed, but before it was dedicated. That was back in January, when he also was second anointed to be King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the great high priest over the United States of America and the world. Wait a minute, I thought that was supposed to be Jesus. Yeah, they don't believe in Jesus. They just fool you into believing in Jesus. They believe that Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon are all about Jesus. They don't believe in Jesus. Mormons know about the second anointing, but Mormons don't know about the second anointing. They know about it, but they don't know it. They don't understand what it means. And it means that Brigham Young anointed himself as Christ. And so then there was also, for the next couple of months, they kept a book of polygamous marriages. They're in 1846, not 1843. Because once you understand that they're the enemy, that they've lied, you don't go trusting them for what you want to believe in them for. Like I did with checking on the stats. There are certain places that I do not recognize their authority. And so I stuck to the authoritative sources. The CDC, the UN, and WHO. And I had to settle for Johns Hopkins. Oakes confesses to be in charge of that. All of it. And so for this year, was he involved with October 7th in 2023? Yeah. New Orleans bombing? Yeah. Because of their dealings with terrorists. Financing terrorism. They finance Putin for the war against Ukraine. They finance Saudi Arabia for the ICE attacks, Islamic State. There is no ISIS. Everybody gets that wrong. It's the Islamic State. And the sad thing that I caught was just busted up laughing. I knew that the church was a fraud, doing business deals rather than giving charity, donations. But sure enough, to find that Saudi Arabia and Qatar fund the Islamic State, justifying it as humanitarian aid. That's exactly what the church does. So yeah. All of the times where the church prophets go and meet with a government leader, and then within months later, there's a coup going on. When Oakes says, yep, we are responsible. It's not just talk. It's not dead and gone, as Mormon apologists want to tell you it is. The Mormon apologist most likely is a descendant of those Danites. Those in leadership in Utah are from those Danites. Even those who are outside of Utah might be willing to bet I can find them in the ledger that Nelson rushed to have released to prove that Section 119 is true before Thanksgiving 2023. I bet I can find them in that list. I made sure to spend my whole Thanksgiving going over those with the finished product of a 6-hour video series for you guys, and nobody watched it. And so, yeah, that's the sad reality of the failure of YouTube, is that YouTube suppresses my videos. And so people who are followers of me, the majority of you are no more than 1 to 2 years at the most. There are a few of you who go back further, only one from 2015. And so this makes it necessary for me to keep repeating picture memes for you, to repeat content information for you. Because if I forget to put in a picture, if I forget to repeat in these hour-long videos, without fail, there will be a brand new Mormon coming to that one and only video for the first time and complaining about what didn't get put in as a repeat. Without fail. This is the sabotage of YouTube against me. They just love to mock and laugh about how they're showing me that Jesus is true by committing cyber terrorism. So in the coming days, because it's more than 1 week, if all things go as planned, Trump will take over, be sworn in as president. What is he going to do? Officially destroy the Constitution of the United States of America and turn America fascist. What the United States Constitution says specifically must not happen. Articles 4 and 6. No communism, no fascism. And yet those were our only two choices for the elections for I don't know how many decades now. There was Ross Perot when I first was allowed to vote. And I was all excited. Cool. Somebody who's not of the false dichotomy. And then he got a death threat, and he got scared, and he chickened out. And then I found out later, while I was up in Canada, that he had run for president again. And if a man cannot defend his country from threats to murder him, he has no respect to be president. And so, having that belief in my brain, that is why, despite all of the threats and the actual actions taken against me by this church, by the orders of this church, with the rewarding financially to those who succeeded, and those who failed get financially punished, I'm still doing it until I can't do it no more. Whether it's because of the enemy winning, or whether it's because the church fell, transferred authority to me so that I can get you to Zion. The church doesn't want you in Zion. Obviously, they're the Danites. They're the cause of all of this. You're not the true church if you're the cause of evil. That could be the title. I'm wanting to put in South Park's Declaration of War against Canada song. This is the theme song in the description below. And so yeah, what's Trump's gonna do? What's he gonna do when he comes for you? So, women, yeah, you've already lost your rights. It'll just be official. You'll be removed from work, because you got to be barefoot, pregnant, in the kitchen with your one husband. The church is going to get in trouble for that. You got to be having babies. If you're LGBTQIAPO+, yeah, oops, you let yourself get documented. They've now got a blacklist of you. And so all of you will be rounded up and electroshocked until you confess and demonstrate that you're no longer LGBTQIAPO+. Because they're not just going to believe you if you cry out and say, I'm straight, honest. They'll demand you prove it. So expect to be indefinitely incarcerated for the rest of your lives, getting shocked on a regular basis until your brain fries. If you're blacks, yep, we all know Trump and how he feels about you. Go back to the bleep hole country where you never came from. Doesn't matter if you're a citizen. You gotta go. MAGA is white supremacist Christian nationalist. That's why I was disappointed that the Black Lives Matter protest stopped. Had to keep going, guys. Had to keep going. Had to put pressure on Biden. He failed. Everybody took a sigh of relief when Biden got put in. But then Biden betrayed you. The Social Security Fairness Act that got signed by the president on Sunday last was a con. I found out from a guy recommended who's in charge, who was part of the Social Security agency, that it's only for federal employees. Nobody who's on Social Security will get any of that money. That's not for you guys. It was a con. So the American people didn't benefit from it, as the Senate and Congress said it was. They lied. Nobody is getting extra money that they need to live. And since the federal agencies are going to be dismantled under Trump, they don't get the money either. He has not appointed a new SEC person yet. Because when I did the video covering that, I had to put in the description below the one that Trump appointed in 2017 and the one that Biden appointed when he took over. Trump has not appointed somebody yet for the SEC, which is very curious because the economy is going to tank. He's going to declare war against Canada, Greenland, and Panama. And so I thought it very curious that the Church News today has 164 new mission presidents and companions. They can't say wives. Because as a missionary, our companion was called a companion, not my wife. We're not even allowed to sleep in the same bed. Thank God. But we all thought it was hilarious. You are required to sleep in the same room, but not in the same bed. And so if you've heard from Trump about what's going on, and then you look at this map, which I'm going to try to remember to put in, oh, you forgot, so we're going to get you, Travis. We're going to get you. Notice the color color coding. United States is a light blue with Canada, the 51st state, and Greenland, the 52nd state. Panama is too small, I guess, to see that it's still red. Maybe they forgot. But notice, Russia, with all of Europe, is the same kind of dark blue-gray. Remember what Trump said about Greenland? For national security. Check the distance from Maine to the UK. Now, what's the distance between Greenland and the UK? It even looks slightly closer to Spain. And Russia is all the same color with all of Europe. You forgot that whatever Putin tells Trump to do, Trump does it? I told you in the video, either last night or I don't know how many days ago, Trump is going to prepare to allow Putin to invade all of Europe. This Ukraine thing was purposely dragged on throughout the rest of the Biden administration, because he's been told by the ones who funded the Ukraine war that 2024 is going to be the big show into 2025. In a major city yet to be determined in Russia. Fox 13 News Utah's Max Roth reporting that we found that back in January, after the passing of the tax budget that was rushed right before the end of the year by Senator Orrin Hatch, that the church acquired $32 billion through about a half a dozen different LLC corporations. And I can just keep on going. But those at the southern border, yep, locked up in cages. Children will be sex trafficked to the sex traffickers around the world, paying Trump for it. Child sex slavery, slavery, and those who get rejected will get sent back into Mexico. The children and babies who get rejected from the white Christian rich families left in America get booted back to Mexico. And ICE, likewise, everybody undocumented, everybody black, everybody Islamic, out. That's why the state of Utah, being a sanctuary state, is in big trouble. Again, there are multiple ways that Trump is not going to be happy with the state of Utah. Governor Cox is trying to lie and deny to cover up for the church, but he's failing. You can't go against Trump in a Trump state. Trumpists are going to be pissed with you and narc on you. See, I know exactly what to do. Even though Biden and Harris no longer allow you to communicate with them, I don't know if Trump will resume it. They bailed on us. I checked today, and they bailed. They're still the president and vice president. They ain't done yet, but they bailed on us. After signing that abomination on Sunday to betray Americans who are on Social Security, he bailed on us. He's out. He's hiding in shame. They betrayed us. They set us up to be taken over by fascists. And now he's bailed. Likewise, the Attorney General bailed on us. FBI Director failed us and now is bailed. We are in deep trouble, guys. And so it's unclear as to how we are going to survive. It's unclear as to how the church will fall. And if they're going to even transfer authority to me. So that the prophecies that I read to you are going to happen. Because the church ain't going to make them happen. They are self-fulfilling their own prophecies, which is their plot, their insurrectionist terrorist plot. And they are winning, and they are rubbing it in my face, because I'm the only one who's going to catch this. And I shared it with you. So it's after 6. This is an hour and 17 minutes. We'll see if I can get it up tonight or if it'll end up being tomorrow morning. Notice I'm not being cyber attacked. This would be the perfect time to... Yeah, this was the first election that AI was used on the voting machines, in the voting machine programs. Doesn't need an external connection. That's why I'm so pissed. Because the newest Microsoft upgrade with my picture viewer, it buffers, which means algorithms, but it also seems to have an AI program, and it's stupid. It is not intelligent. I had another dealing with another company that was giving me grief today because of their AI program. Just time and time again, AI can't do the job. And yet we're being told, oh, AI is being used for this. Oh, AI is being used for that. Did you run the test? Or are you just going to accept whatever AI tells you? Oh my God. But it's unclear as to whether or not we're even going to have the internet in the coming days. You know, first it might just be that AI goes on a tear and says, you're disqualified from accessing the internet. You're a terrorist. With all of their false positives that keep popping up. Because Biden at least had the one group return net neutrality, but nobody knew about it and nobody did any of the changes who were in the positions to be controlled by net neutrality. So everybody is still acting as if net neutrality was never restored. And so, yeah, the poor, yeah, it's going to get worse. The price of food, price of everything is going to skyrocket with those tariffs. He purposely is going to destroy the economies of the world. And that's why it's not a surprise that the stock market fell over 600 points on the Dow today. Pay attention all next week. I'm willing to bet it's going to continue to drop. Because the church is selling it off. They know what's going to happen if Trump takes over in office on the 21st. Inauguration is Monday. Expect the fall of the stock market. Because once Trump does the tariffs, on the very first day, businesses are going to further tank their stocks. And the church is the major stockholder on the stock market. They're the major stockholder of internet companies, search engines, social media sites. They are in control of everything. They are the enemy. I've done all the research. I made the connections. Just because I missed something, don't think you own me and that you got me. The church is still true. I mean, if you can't see the difference between this church's understanding of Jesus versus Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon about the Constitution, I can't help you guys. Mormons who want war so that the church's kingdom gets put on earth, you don't get it. You will not be at peace. You will not be safe. You will not have a refuge here in Utah. And if the church gets their kingdom, we're all doomed. Women will not be allowed an education. Therefore, there's no need for you to get a career. And you definitely won't be going on missions anymore. And the church wants polygamy restored. We all know it's coming. And so are they going to be worried about how young a girl is? Nope. Just like my white supremacist Christian nationalist childhood peers, if she's old enough to bleed, she's old enough to breed. Nelson lowered the age to 11, by the way. But don't worry, you're not worthy enough to get an extra wife. Because the leaders are worthy. There's still a mass extermination coming. With a mass excommunication. You thought you were righteous. Church said no. You're going against them. You're not able to endure the Lord's laws of polygamy or being single or getting an education, getting a job, going on a mission. Who's going to stop them now? There's no federal government that is under a constitutional republic anymore. All of you, of those of us who've left the church, and those who got excommunicated, will be booted out, deported from Utah, if not locked up and electroshocked. They've got to have those to keep the psychos in business with the new name of addictions. Healing power of Jesus, people. Yeah, I'm a Jesus healer. Please sit in this chair while we strap you in and electrocute you. The healing mighty power of Jesus compels you. Zzz. And so, yes, you may think you're faithful. You may have your wife, but if she's able to bear children, remember those Danites who told you that Joseph Smith said, yeah, can you be faithful enough if Joseph asked you for your wife? Would you give her to him? Well, in this case, it will be Nelson or Oakes. Are you going to be faithful enough? Or are you going to rebel and become an apostate? And so, yes, it'll be the law of consecration, not just tithing. There's more that you have to give to the kingdom from section 119 than what we've been minimalizing giving. You become a slave to this church. After all, you're wicked, you don't have a wife. Because they took them away from you. You don't get it. You attack me to try to defend the church when the church is going to betray you. And you just don't get it. And it'll be too late to form a resistance. They'll have eyes everywhere, working under the Strengthening Church Members Committee. Yep. Be mass homeless people, because people will lose their jobs with the economy crashing. It'll become a survival of the fittest in America. Civil war will break out. Death and carnage everywhere. And so getting to Zion will be nearly impossible at that point. If the church doesn't fall, if they don't hand over everything to me, there will be no exodus to Zion. There will be no building of Zion. And if we can't bring the materials with us to Zion to build it, we won't have building materials anyway. And nobody knows where the correct location is, because nobody is going to acquire the 19 July 1840 scripture that I provided for you on Academia. If Utah is destroyed, because they're a sanctuary state, Mormons would only know of Independence, Missouri, because the Danites told them so. It's just going to be sad. I am no different than Joseph Smith. No different from Russell Marion Nelson. And yet Mormons are looking for Jesus. As I made it very clear, he ain't coming. But that's the whole point of the church. Is to destroy Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. Do away with it completely. There won't be time to study scriptures. You'll be serving in the kingdom. You get back to work. Women have to be barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. All you'll have is a living prophet of Jesus, who will most likely become Big Brother. Recorded messages for all eternity. The Wizard of Oz. There will be no studying. There will be no church history. No scriptures. Just conformity to the church for all eternity as a slave. Agency gone. And that should have told you enough that the church, by taking away agency, can't be of the true God, because we all know that's Lucifer's plan. And yet, Mormons get upset with me. There are literally Mormons who want Lucifer's plan of happiness, to force everybody to obey. DesNet, they're a terrorist group. And they claim, we just want everybody to obey the living prophet of Jesus. Yeah, take away agency. You worship Lucifer. And then you accuse me of worshiping Lucifer for saying that you worship Lucifer because you're violating the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. Dumbasses. I cannot save a people who will not be saved. It's just going to be sad. So, yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. This video, which you're not going to listen to the end.